What's up, guys? Today we are talking about my testosterone replacement regimen. I'm super excited to shoot this. I'm very passionate about this subject. And at the same time, I have a sense of responsibility when talking about these matters because I'm not a doctor. And I also realize making the decision to get on hormone replacement therapy is a serious one. So I just want to start with that first and foremost. I got on TRT when I was 36 years old. At that point, I had established a very good business. I was single. I was dating girls. I was having a lot of fun. I was getting around the point where I was like, if I don't have kids by the time I'm 40, I'm never going to do it. I chose to bank some sperm. I chose to get on some TRT. And then, of course, a few years later, I believe I was 39 at the time, my college sweetheart reached back out to me and was like, hey, I still think about you. And of course, I still thought about her. And we met up. And I tell you all that to say this, because I made that decision, because then years later, I met my wife, now my wife. I had to go through IVF to have a kid. So there's some real serious things that come along with testosterone replacement, like infertility. Another thing that's really serious, I'm probably at some point, let's see if you can see it, at some point, I'm gonna have to get a hair transplant. And that'll probably be next winter, 2026, not this coming winter, this in the year 2025, but the year after, I will probably have to go get a hair transplant. I've done a really good job of maintaining my hair as is, but it has definitely added to me losing hair in the back of my head. It doesn't have anything to do with you thinning in the front, but it does have to do with you losing hair in the back of the head. And I also have a ton of hair on my back, even though, not right now. I mean, I keep it very hygienic. I work to groom myself. But if I left it alone, my back and my shoulders would get very hairy. And that's not how it was prior to testosterone replacement therapy. And those are just the infertility is not superficial, but those are some superficial things, as long as like some serious things if you're planning a family. And I'd also tell you from a health level, overall, I think testosterone replacement therapy, if you need to do it, does have an incredible impact on both your health and performance. But I will tell you, unquestionably, I don't care what anyone says, it will drive down your HDL, high density lipoprotein, one of your lipids from your cholesterol. It will absolutely lower that number. And some people have said to me, some clinicians have been like, no, it doesn't do that. Other clinicians openly say it does. It absolutely will drive down your HDL. It will absolutely elevate your hematocrit. You have something that you get tested for when you get your labs done, your hematocrit. It's the thickening of your blood. There's primary polycythemia, which can lead to an increased risk for stroke. And then what happens from TRT is known as secondary polycythemia. And the way that doctors mitigate the liability of that is they're going to tell you to donate blood in order to decrease your hematocrit that's going to elevate from taking TRT. But now you have to go donate blood, or you have to pay for a phlebotomy every time you go, a therapeutic phlebotomy when you go to the doctor's office. And that's an added complication that you wouldn't have without being on TRT. So there's some aesthetic things like the hair loss, the back hair, there's the infertility element, and then there's some complications like the HDL and the hematocrit. Overall, I would tell you that I do not think that it's a risk for cardiovascular health. I don't think it's a risk for prostate health. And as a matter of fact, I think it's the opposite. If you have low testosterone and you're not treating it, you're actually going to be at increased risk for cardiovascular disease, and you're going to actually be at increased risk potentially for prostate cancer. So I think it's one of those things like, if you have a great number right now, do not get on TRT. Do not add the complication to your life. But if your numbers are getting lower as you're aging, you are better off being on TRT than not being on TRT. And before you even think about any of this, before you think about getting on TRT, if you're not a diehard meathead, but your numbers are just getting lower and you want to increase them, think about something like N-clomiphene or clomiphene, this pill right here. These are simply pills, clomiphene, and this would be my first step before testosterone replacement therapy. If you're just a casual person that wants to increase your testosterone, if you're a meathead like me, you should skip this step and go right to injectables. But the clomiphene is a pill. You just take this daily or prescribed by your doctor, and it can long-term elevate your testosterone. So it's a great option for people who aren't ready to go to injectables yet or go to pellets, something like that, who aren't ready for full-fledged testosterone replacement therapy, but who is seeing a decrease in their numbers year over year. Let's get into my actual protocol. First and foremost, I am on testosterone cypionate. You're either going to be on cypionate or ethanate. The real difference between that is an American-made versus a European-made. I personally think that the cypionate is a little smoother than the ethanate. It's just less likely to be as thick. But again, that's like, I'm like a wine connoisseur. when it comes to this. Like for most people, you're never gonna notice the difference. So I do prefer Cypionate, but it's a small margin. This is 2,000 milligrams per ml, which breaks down to 2,000 milligrams per ml. You're gonna have to play with your doctor and talk to him about the dose. Some of the stuff I'm gonna talk to you about dosage that I do today has nothing to do with you. It's like my diet. If you said to me, Jake, what do you eat? Guys, I eat 4,200 calories when I'm on a diet, when I'm in a cut. That won't work for you, just like some of the dosages that we're gonna talk, they're specific to you. But I'm talking a little bit about what I do and giving you guys some feedback on what you could or what you might consider wanting to do. When it comes to a dosage of testosterone, it's usually somewhere between 150 milligrams a week to, I've heard people even going as high as 300. 300 is a little bit high, but some people are really jacked. For me, I take 250 milligrams of testosterone a week. And then what I do is I actually break it up into 2 dosages. And so what that actually looks like is basically I'm taking 1 ml and a quarter a week. So here's my TRT, got my little needle in here. And what I like to do, take my needle. So I'm gonna pull out here. I use this bigger pin to pull out. I take it just past the cc or half a cc. We're at 0.6 of a cc or an ml. Those are the same thing. I guess technically, following the math, I take 240 milligrams of this a week, and then I inject with the smaller needle. That ends up keeping my levels, depending on when I test them, somewhere around 900 to 1,100 nanograms per deciliter. I do this twice a week. I do it once Monday morning, and then I do it every Thursday afternoon. I inject. And by doing that, if I tested like right after I did the injection, I'd be around 1,100 nanograms over deciliter of testosterone. If I tested like 3 days later, I'd be a little closer to like 900 nanograms over deciliter. And that's basically where I like to keep myself, between that 900 and 1,100 nanograms over deciliter of testosterone, just how it is measured. So that is the most important part of TRT, is the actual testosterone, and that is how I dose myself. But remember, 150 milligrams might be right for you. I would recommend that you break up your dosage twice a week. I like intermuscular injections. A lot of people these days are doing subcutaneous injections. They're doing it more frequently. I just don't want to be a pincushion. I don't feel like dealing with it all the time, so I do it twice a week. So Monday morning and then Thursday afternoon. It works for my life. It works for my lifestyle. The number one thing is always adherence. What's the easiest thing for you to adhere to? And that's why if you are going to struggle to getting yourself injected at least once a week or twice a week, which I recommend, consider pellets. The downside to doing pellets is they are more expensive, they hurt after they're done, and you can't train legs for a few days afterwards. And the biggest downside is the dosage is really high at the beginning, and then over the course of the 3 months while you're on the pellets, the dosage goes down the whole time. So optimally, injections, just if you're on yachts, if you're on airplanes, if your life's crazy, pellets, don't do cream. Do not do cream. Do not do cream. Do not do cream. You risk getting on yourself, you risk getting on your kids, you risk getting on your pets. Equally as important, you miss actually yourself getting your levels up. I know a ton of people have done cream and they go retest for the levels, and their levels are absolute shit. The next thing to talk about, I think is important, is a Remodex or anastrozole, which is what I'm prescribed. I don't even take this. So when you take testosterone, it can go through a process called erythemization, and it can convert to estrogen. And the issue with estrogen, there's some benefits. People underestimate how positive estrogen is actually, even for males as a hormone, but there can be some side effects. Nobody wants gynecomastia. I want my nipples to be razor sharp. There's some side effects with high estrogen you simply do not want to have. There are some positives though, again, like it will make you stronger. It will definitely increase your sex drive. But if you find that your levels are routinely above 60, and you have symptoms, and obviously talk to your doctor, then you may need to take anastrozole or a Remodex. I myself, I have it on hand, but I don't ever take it because I don't ever have any side effects with my TRT. Alongside with that, some people, they also take HCG because they want to keep their balls nice and full. They don't want the size of them to change. I personally don't do that. I don't think it'll prevent you from getting infertile if long-term you use testosterone replacement therapy. I just see it as an extra expense, but again, talk to your doctor. It may be right for you, but I do not run HCG. I did run HCG along with enclomiphene when I was getting fertile again, going through the process of IVF, but I don't run it year round. I take telmisartan. Telmisartan is intended to be a blood pressure medication, but there are some additional benefits with it. It can prevent left ventricle thickening, which when people take steroids is definitely a side effect and could potentially become a side effect on TRT. Unlikely, but a potential side effect. So telmisartan can help prevent that. It can also help prevent elevation of blood pressure, and it can also help push down hematocrit. So I actually take this even without high blood pressure. I take 40 milligrams a day. You can have that conversation with your doctor. One of the reasons I made this decision is because people who take blood pressure medication, there's no increased risk of mortality, of death from it. So I just found that because correlation, there's no increased risk. And then on top of it, can mitigate some of the side effects. I choose to take this. This is a Jake decision, but it is something, especially if you're doing other things besides just testosterone replacement therapy, which I don't advocate at all. You really, really, really want to know about telmisartan. Let's talk about hair. I take a topical spray of finasteride. I do not take the oral because the oral can affect your hormones overall. I just want it to bind to the receptor site. You can see that I'm getting a little bald patch back here, and it's really kept me from losing more hair. If I knew about this when I first started TRT, I might never have to get the hair transplant. But now at this point, it's when I see it, kind of bothers me. I get it. For most people, they'd be like, you're crazy, you don't need to do it. I'm absolutely going to do it. But if you did this initially, you probably would not need to bother with getting a hair transplant. I'm putting up the ingredients on the screen because they're detailed and for time's sake, but I take a topical finasteride. I have this made at a compounding pharmacy. I actually use Dr. Carlos Wesley, even though I know it's a little bit more costly. I think he's the best in the world when it comes to hair transplants. He's right here in New York City, so I use him. I also take minoxidil, which again is a blood pressure medication, but nobody uses it for blood pressure anymore. You take a very small dosage of it to help with hair loss. You don't want to take minoxidil in a spray or a foam powder. You want to take it orally. You want that to be in use systemically. Finasteride, you do not want to take orally. You want to use it as a spray, and this will help you retain your hair. DHEA, very important hormone. Whenever you take a supplement, you need to take the supplement based on what your lab said. Take the supplement and then see what the results are after taking the supplement. What do I mean by that? Remember, too high of testosterone, not a good thing. Too low of testosterone, not a good thing. You want your testosterone in an optimal range. The same is true with DHEA. So I didn't have an optimal level of DHEA. It was like on the low of the normal range. I wanted to get in the higher range. So I started taking 25 milligrams every day. And what it ended up is I had a supra physiological level way too high. And I landed at taking 25 milligrams every other day. You can't extrapolate anything from yourself from that other than you need to check your labs. Based on your labs, you can then make a decision, and then you have to retest in order to make sure that you're at the right dosage for you. Deca or Nanodrolin, some people take this. I have a prescription for it. I think I have like 6 months supply. I don't take this, but it is helpful for some people when they are TRT and for joint pain. This is prescribed to me. Everything I have here is legal, even though I choose not to take it. The only reason I'm really mentioning it in this video is one, if you're dealing with joint pain, a small dose of this along with your TRT can be very helpful. And also, like I said, some people aren't responsive to testosterone replacement therapy, and typically what the clinician will end up doing is prescribing you Deca instead. But there's a host of complications if you're only taking Deca and no testosterone. You have to like take progesterone and other hormones. I would not recommend Deca being your primary form of hormone replacement therapy. If at all possible, you can use TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, instead. And those are the major things I do. Only other thing I think that's really, for time's sake, worth noting is I take CBD daily. Super physiologicals of testosterone, I don't have those, but super, if like you were just abusing steroids, they can be neurodegenerative. And CBD is very helpful with preventing neural degeneration. So I take that daily. I take 60 milligrams each and every single day of just 100% CBD. There's no THC in it. You may want to consider ashwagandha or rhodiola before moving to get on TRT. You can do that along with like a sleep regimen, working on getting your sleep in, working on getting your body fat to an ideal place, being more active. There are things you can do before you even consider clomiphene or endoclomiphene, and these two herbs can potentially help. And believe it or not, I actually take these two herbs along with being on TRT just because of the additional benefits of cortisol and some other things that they help do. And the only other thing I'll mention while we're here is L-carnitine is something else I do, part of my regimen. Some people take it orally. The issue is that as you take it orally, it's carcinogenic. So instead, I do a subcutaneous injection of 200 milligrams a day. Helps with fat liposis. And the real reason I'm mentioning it in this video is it also helps decrease the likelihood of left ventricle thickening. So again, this is going to help me in case my heart begins to hypertrophy like my freaking muscles. So that is why I include it in my protocol here today. So overall, just to recap, 240 milligrams of testosterone every single week, broken up into 2 dosages that's split in half. So a dosage of 120 milligrams on Monday, 120 on Thursday, DHEA 25 milligrams every other day. I take ashwagandha and rhodiola each and every single morning. I take that along with 60 milligrams of CBD. I take 40 milligrams of telmisartan each and every single day. I take 2.5 milligrams of minoxidil for my hair. I use this compounded spray by Carlos Wesley, but I'll put up the details of how you can have your compound pharmacist make it for you, or you can go see him because he is the man. And then I take 200 milligrams of L-carnitine each and every single day. And I understand this could be culture shock for some of you. You're like, wow, that's a lot. I am in that weird space where I am taking like 20 pills a day, and most of them are antioxidants, most of them are vitamins and minerals, but health is my #1 priority. It's a bigger priority than me for even my family. You can say, what the hell are you saying? If I'm not alive, how can I take care of my family? If I'm not alive, how can I benefit my family? So my health is my top priority in my life so that I can be my best self and so that I can take care of those I love. And let's face it, guys, I've really managed to monetize this to an incredible level. So, you know, helping others with their health, I have to lead by the front. I have to lead by example. So if you like what you saw today, which I loved shooting this, by the way, because I could fucking talk about this for like 30 minutes easily. You can hit subscribe. If you don't follow me on Instagram, that's where the majority of my following is. I just want to say thanks. I put up at least one long format piece of content each and every week. Hope you like what you saw here today, guys.